AITA for telling my mom she can't talk to my kid about her miscarriage and take him to the grave. 28F. Have a son. 5M. I was adopted and grew up the consolation prize for the miscarriage my mom, 68F, had at 20 weeks. We had to go to this fetus's grave every year. One of my earliest memories was her forcing me to give my favorite stuffed rabbit to the grave. I grew up with her venting about how hard the miscarriage was to me. And I honestly think it was super inappropriate, and it made me feel like a second option to what she actually wanted. I obviously was never good enough. I recently found out that she took my son to the fetus's grave and told him about it. I told her that's an off-limits topic and he has no business hearing about her miscarriage at 5 years old. Now some people in my life are saying I am in awe for telling my mom she couldn't tell my son about his dead aunt, but I think I'm justified in not wanting him to have to hear about it too. It was literally 30 years ago. Am I the asshole? NTA, your mom spent years trauma dumping on you and now she is trying to do it to your son. Your 5 years old is not her therapist. NTA. First and foremost, 5 is a bit early to start talking about dead people he's never met. Second, and as important, you are the parent. She is grandma. Babysit and spoil the child. But she does not get to decide when kid is ready for different benchmarks in growing up. Bottom line is, your child, your rules. If she doesn't agree, she doesn't get to be alone with him. NTA. Everyone is entitled to grieve for a loved one. But your mom is obsessed with grieving for the baby she miscarried over 40 years ago. I was in my teens when I found out that my mother miscarried my parents' first baby and third baby. Overheard my dad say something, so I asked my mom about it. I can't imagine what it would have been like to grow up being dragged to their grave sites. If your mother is still full of sorrow, she needs grief counseling. But you are right to limit your son's exposure to her obsession. NTA. Your mother has unresolved trauma. As a fellow adoptee, I'm really sorry you had to grow up with this dysfunction, which sounds like it resulted in your own trauma. You can break the cycle right now by limiting your child's contact with your mother and always supervising, sending you the best. NTA. She went through a horrible thing, and she's entitled to still feel love for the baby she lost. However, making you give your toy and making you her therapist for the entirety of your childhood? Completely off the rails. You should have been celebrated instead of living in your sibling's shadow for almost 30 years. It's never was your responsibility to heal your mother. Her taking him somewhere you didn't give explicit permission to take him to is crossing a line. Your child doesn't need to go through that experience. 2. Please protect your family and let your child have the choice to hear about it when he's old enough to comprehend what a miscarriage is, if he wants to. NTA. Your mom needs serious mental help to be dwelling on this over 30 years. I'd be cutting her contact with her grandson if she keeps this up. NTA. I'm sympathetic to your mother. But the blunt fact of the matter is, her first child was a miscarriage. Yes, it's unfortunate, but instead of celebrating you, her successful, wonderful, alive child, she made your entire childhood about the one she lost, putting a deceased child above an alive child, especially for so long, is not okay. She needs therapy. She needed therapy 28 years ago. You tell her she gets therapy now, or you don't being your child around her. Don't allow your child to suffer what you went through. NTA. I've had several miscarriages myself, and while I mourn the loss, it doesn't control my life. For the simple fact that life goes on, even when something you love dies. Living in the past or dwelling on what could have been just makes you lose out on what's there. Which is what your adoptive mother has done. She's grieved for so long that she doesn't see what's right in front of her. A daughter and a grandson that need her way more than her deceased child ever could. And if she's not careful, she'll lose that too, for which I would not blame you in the least. NTA, your son is not her therapist. It's extremely inappropriate for her to take a 5-year-old to a grave and unload like that. NTA, your mother needed more help when it happened. Processing grief this way is not healthy for anyone. NTA, but your mother is. I understand she is sad and had a really hard time. But her attitude is not tolerable in my opinion. People shouldn't reflect their sadness on their kids this way. NTA, your mother cannot spend her life passing her loss, trauma and grief onto each successive generation. This must stop with you. NTA X 1000. Your job as a parent is to protect your kid from trauma. Your mother sadly has a habit of dumping her trauma on little kids. You are within your rights to prohibit her from seeing your kid until she goes to therapy and learns to deal with her grief. Your child does not have to carry her grief. You suffered enough for it. She needs to learn to manage her emotions. Protect your kid. NTA. The stuffed rabbit part made me so sad. Your mom needs therapy, obviously. But also, why pass on that trauma to her grandson? There is sharing your authentic experience when appropriate. And then there is orchestrating a show to indulge your feelings. This is giving orchestrated theatrics. Even negative feelings can make one self-centered. I hope she finds peace. I'm sorry you didn't get all the love and appreciation that you deserve when young. Heart. NTA. A parent told me I was only alive because my brother was a miscarriage. Hearing stuff like that'll mess a kid up. This grief and misplaced guilt doesn't need to be transmitted to another generation. Hang in there. NTA. Your mother needs therapy and you need to set solid boundaries. She seems to be stuck, not processing, and hasn't moved through her loss. Trying to relive it with your son is completely inappropriate, especially after what she did to you. NTA. I can't stress this enough. Your child is 5 years old, and probably has not real understanding of death. Your child should never be burdened with the death of a relative. You grew up with it. You know how it affected you. Your mother needed therapy then and she needs it now if she wants to continue to see your child. Enduring a miscarriage is emotionally and physically painful. I am sorry that your mother went through that, but that is her pain to endure. That is why she needs therapy. It was never your pain. And it sure as heck isn't you child's pain. NTA. That bunny part? Soul-crushing. I'm so sorry this has happened to you, Op. This world is full of such cruelty and malice. NTA. Sending you love, Black Heart. NTA. Gracious. I hope you have a therapist to talk to about all that, because what your mom did is no way to raise a child. And absolutely tell her not to talk to your son about it. It would be one thing if she were just generally discussing a relative that passed. But she's not doing that and you can't trust her. NTA. Your mom has some issues she needs help to resolve. I don't think that's normal or healthy behavior on her part. I'd be very hesitant to leave a child alone with her though. She doesn't seem to have any respect for you as a human being, much less as her child. I'm sorry you had to deal with that all your life.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. AmITheAsshole is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.